What's going on, guys? It is Birdsinthetrap MMA, and I'm back with another video. And today I'm just gonna be kind of expanding on my thoughts from the last video, which was branded as a UFC 324 breakdown, but really it was also a rant a little bit about the card itself just being kind of a shitty interim title fight. And I also touched on the upcoming cards also being some whack-ass title fights, and we're not going to be getting a legit good title fight for seemingly quite a while. Hopefully April they turn it around, but still, we're waiting till April, and it's January, which is pretty absurd. And I wanted to take a look at some of these cards, and if you saw my last video, you saw my thoughts on Gaethje versus Pimblett. But I realized I never actually gave a prediction in the video. I talked about the fight and everything, but I didn't give a prediction. Sorry, I just turned off my headphones. I'm back. But I'm picking Patty to finish Gaethje. But with that being said, Volkanovski versus Lopez 2. Man, this is rough. This is maybe the worst title fight I've ever seen. Because even all those unjustified shitty title shots, you know, Khalil Roundtree, Cheeto Vera, who else do you got? You got a bunch, you know. And like Adesanya versus Duplessis, Strickland versus Duplessis. What's another undeserved title shot? I'm trying to think of one more. Maybe even Diego Lopez in the first Volk fight, you know. But this is the worst of them all. Look at this little blockhead. This is the worst of them all because they are. You guys know they already fought. Volk won. In my opinion, he won every round. People say I'm crazy, but I'm also Volk bias. I you know, got dropped for 5 seconds, right back up on the feet. Not saved by the bell. He was up on his feet before the bell. Won every round after that, 50-45. And I also just don't like Volk taking this fight in general. Like, why risk anything? If anything, you should be fighting a new guy, which I know he was going for. He tried to do that. And for some reason, this makes me worried about the Paramount era, you know? Another thing I talked about was how awesome Paramount was, because I went on and just every fight was just there. It was sick and it was awesome. And if they do that for new events, it's going to be the best thing ever. But if we're giving that up, or if this is what we're getting for that in exchange, it's going to be rough. Do the UFC think like, oh yeah, this is going to bring so much more viewership? You know what I mean? Or is it just the prospect of Diego Lopez winning and having a guy who somewhat represents Mexico? But his flag is Brazilian. He's not even Mexican like that. You want a Brazilian in Brazil? Do a Pereira fight in Brazil for once. You know what I mean? Like, you have options. And the rest of this card is pretty bad, but for a Australia pay-per-view, it's pretty good, because that's how bad Australia pay-per-views typically are. You know, Benoit and Dan Hooker, that's a great fight. Fiziev and Rufi makes no sense fighting up again after a loss. But, you know, the main focus is the shit pile that is Volkanovski versus Lopez 2. And that's only a week after UFC 324. I love the consecutive back-to-back numbered events. That's cool. But you know what I'm going to do? In my last video, I talked about how you're going to feel watching this unravel with Gaethje and Pimblett, and I'm going to do that for this one, right? I'm going to be sitting there with my Volkanovski shirt on, okay? Just like the last fight. And it's going to be Diego Lopez making his walkout. Big bag Diego Lopez going to come out with his hair fucking long as shit. He's going to, I bet he's going to sprint. I bet he's going to be, oh, Coulon, you know, whatever he said to Yair. He's going to come out. He's going to be feisty. He's going to want it. You know, and then you're going to have Volk. Oh, big Volk, the OG of the card, yeah? That's why we're all here. I don't know, that was a little British. But, you know, the whole place is going to be there for Volk. And is it likely he's going to win this fight? I think it's pretty likely. But Lopez, you know, I feel like the only thing that has really improved since their first fight is his danger aspect. You know what I mean? But I do think that if Volk gets this fight to the ground more consistently, he will mince up Lopez and get a stoppage, maybe, like just like the Yair fight. That's what I predicted in their first fight, but I think Volk can actually make that happen this time. Or what the UFC's praying for is Lopez just fucking flukes him somehow, probably loses up until it, and then just fucking knocks him out. And then if that doesn't happen, they'll just do a trilogy. Just keep doing it till he wins. Fuck it. You know? Let's book every other... Let's make a... This is what the UFC should do for the featherweight division. Let's make an interim belt, right? And we'll call that the interim belt. I don't know. And then we'll have the that'll be the undisputed belt, right? And then we'll have the Volkan Lopez belt, which is just going to be these guys rematching until Lopez wins. And then when Lopez wins, he'll get elevated to undisputed, right? And then he'll rematch Volk. Just to prove it wasn't a fluke, you know. Volk's a champ. He deserved it. This thing is a mess, guys. That's a pretty funny rant, I think. Yeah, fucking... It's a mess out here, guys. And then we're still in the apex. We're still in the apex. I wasn't even going to talk about that, like, when I was getting ready to do this. But I just remembered and seen right now. These two fucking blockheads are going to be in the apex. And, listen... It's not that bad of an Apex card. Like, I'm super disappointed that in big 2026, we are here getting number 9 versus number 13 in the Apex. But, I mean, what can you do? For an Apex card, it is pretty good. I do think Oliveira is going to slime out Batista. You got Horiguchi, who's going to slime out Albazi. You got Ulasacek, who's going to slime out Andre Barrier. You got Wang Kong, who's going to slime out Eduardo Mora. You got Ryan Spann versus Riz Van Guniev. Come on. This is a sick... I mean, nah, what am I talking about? This is it's disappointing, to say the least. However, we do pick it up a little bit. Strickland versus Hernandez, I do fuck with this fight. I do think that Fluffy's going to walk through him. But, that card needs work. And listen, another thing I wanted to stress before I get into my my next big tangent is that the fight nights are obviously free, and if the pay-per-views are going to continue to not be pay-per-views, or not continue, we got to see. But if that's the setup, all the complaints is like, yeah, but it's free, So I don't want it to delegitimize the points we're trying to make, but if the UFC is just selling out to Paramount like this every month, because it doesn't really affect fight nights, there's not really a pay-per-view, there's not really title fights on fight nights. I just stuttered my way through that. I hope that made sense. There's no title fights on fight nights. So the fight nights should still be good. In fact, the fight nights should get better because, purses hopefully go up and we can get more fights on there. And they keep cutting guys. So if we're only having entertaining finishers, then in theory it would get better. But with that being said, those are fight nights. And once a month, we still got a pay-per-view. And if they just blow it every time, it's going to get exhausting. It's going to get to the point where it's like, we're watching, but what are we doing? Like, we don't follow rankings, we just make shit up. Like Paddy Pimblett being number 5. We just make shit up. Fuck it. Let's talk about Holloway versus Oliveira. I gave a mini tangent about this being a BMF fight. It's not the worst pay-per-view headliner. I think they'd do this anyway if they were still with ESPN. But this is like a perfect co-main event. You know what I mean? You should have something on top of this. You should have... What would be like a perfect main event to this? I'm thinking a heavier fight. I know Aspinall's not cleared to fight. Like Pereira gone. But that's an interim... Ugh. What have they done? What have they done? They just... Everything's just a mess. It's all a mess. It's okay. Like, you know, it's not the worst thing ever, but at the end of the day, you should have like, Chimaev would be the perfect main event on top of this. And where is he? Waiting to fight. So he's waiting till it's been a year so he can get in there again. Like, that's how it seems. So with that being said, this card also needs work, and we have 2 months. I'm sure they have something else cooking for this, because there's no way we are not letting this fly as your co-main event. With the BMF title, you gotta step up your game, UFC. And there's good fights on here. I know this one's off, but like Barallo de Ritter, that's a sick one. Moicano Ortega, that's a good fight, but not the co-main. But I'm not gonna, you know, this card's clearly not done, so we're not gonna rip into it too bad. Really, the thing I can't stand is just the BMF belt at the top of the bill. And guys, I just don't know how the Paramount era is gonna play out. And obviously we're very early. We only have 3 events announced. But if it's gonna be more interim, BMF, undeserved, we're gonna get to a point where it's like fight nights are like, alright, this is for the real shit, you know what I mean? And the #1 contender fights are gonna be the more legitimate fights. Like, if Arman fought right now, unless it's against Ilya, he's not exactly, like, honestly, if Arman fights right now, it's like he's defending, you know? I talked about it yesterday. The Gaethje and Pimblett, that's feature fight vibes all over it, you know, not pay-per-view. Main event title fight. And I keep saying pay-per-view, you guys know what I mean. It is what it is. And I think with that being said, guys, that's going to be the end of this video. I just wanted to talk about the other cards that are coming up and do my rant. And with that being said, when I come up with good ideas, I'm going to get on here. And I'm also going to do breakdowns for all these cards. I'm really interested in keeping track of my pick record this year. Just because it's fun. Why not? And I think that is all that has to be said. So with that being said, peace.